This is WBSM On Demand.
Well, we're now joined by Chief Paul Oliveira, the chief of the New Bedford Police Department. Good morning, Chief. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Chris. I'm doing well.
Let me just give you the microphone there. We were having such fun in the off time that I didn't set the studio up right. So you're having you looking forward to Thanksgiving, Paul?
I am. It's always a good day. It's a good weekend, a long weekend for many, and just a nice time to celebrate with family and friends without having to deal with all the stresses of gift giving and all that other stuff that's soon to come.
Right. So you work in the old Fernandes supermarket, which I didn't realize until we were just talking about it, because Tim brought it up, that your dad was a Fernandes supermarket manager. So this, talk about that for me, will you? I know it's a little light and people are probably like, what about crime? But I just want to talk about this because it seems like such a great story.
Yeah, it's kind of been forgotten about now because I've been there for 20 years, but it was very strange walking into that store initially, especially when they were reconstructing it. Actually, when we moved in, it had already become the RX place, I believe, the pharmacy after Fernandes. And walking around had brought back a lot of memories. I spent a lot of time in that store and some of the other Fernandes in New Bedford. Sunday,
what years are those, Paul?
So that goes back to mid-'70s to the 80s, into the mid-'80s when he was involved. Actually, he worked for Fernandes his whole life, but we spent a lot of time in those stores when he was the manager district, because on Sundays the stores were closed.
That's right. Everything was closed on Sunday.
So it was his responsibility. We'd have to go in and check the refrigeration of all the stores, make sure everything was up and running. So that was an opportunity. While he was doing that, we'd be running around the hallways, the aisles, and playing hockey with the cans of tuna, and just doing some, pretty simple stuff. But at the time, it was pretty cool.
So this was his big time of the year, one of the big times of the year, right?
Oh yeah, that's a big time. Yeah, no doubt about it. Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? That's those stores are at capacity.
So Paul, we speaking of new police stations, where are we? How's the process going to build a new station?
Yeah, so last I heard, it's moving along. They did put out the RFP or something similarly called a request for proposals to hire basically the project manager. So it's in the very early stages, because I think once that is done, the first task would be to try to find potential sites and then bring those sites back to the city. And then during that time, while they're looking for sites, they're also doing an analysis of the police department. How big of a station do we need? How many acres? Or if it's a small lot, can we go up, how many stories? So, but that's all up to the experts, and that's really what they're looking to hire now, an expert who can manage that process.
What do you envision the future police department to look like, Paul?
I envision a state-of-the-art, building where the officers can come and go and feel safe and secure. Have private parking, have well-equipped interview rooms and office space, a nice workout facility where our officers can spend some time in their off time. Having
very
that
important.
Very important, very important. So really, building a new police station now is not recreating the wheel. If you look around, most of our neighboring cities and towns have built police stations in the last few years, if not the last 5 years. So. We don't need to recreate the wheel, right? We just go industry standard, what's safe and secured, and just give our officers finally a nice place that they can call home and a nice work environment where they can.
The future police department, I don't know if we're there yet, but technology is going so fast. How much of a role do you think technology will play in the modern police, and how much does it play today? Because I know you're focused on technology.
Yes, no doubt about it. It's all about the future of the profession is all about technology. Live crime centers, right, where you're basically in a room that's surrounded by cameras, and as soon as calls coming in, you're putting eyes in the sky. Eventually, there's no secret. Drones will be patrolling, across this country. New York has just passed some. They finally made major hurdles in New York City to do some types of patrols in the near future. As in the West Coast, it's already happening in California. Yeah, and initially, they always had these drones just kind of landing out, or I should say being dispatched out of like a police station. And now many places in California, they've found all these aerial sites, because now no longer do you have to put places have been properly permitted, You don't have to keep an eye on the drone at all times.
Okay.
And so once you overcome that hurdle, it really allows you to, put your drones out throughout the community and then just dispatch them as the calls come in, and they can be there sometimes within seconds, if not just a minute or two. So
what do those drones cost? Stuff that you're looking for?
Yeah, so any of these you can buy drones as low as, right, small time stuff, or a homeowner can get a drone for a few $100, right?
Easy, yeah.
But, the crazy thing is some of these other ones aren't outrageously priced. Within $20,000, you can get a very well-equipped drone, lights. It's got heat detection, some of them.
And how long
they got a
will it
PA
stay up?
system. So that all depends on the weather conditions.
Okay.
But it can stay up for quite a bit of time, at least most of them, at least a half hour. It depends on what you're using it for. If there's more, obviously, wind and different types of weather conditions, it's going to use more to stabilize itself, from what I know. And the more you're using the capacity of it, if it's got a spotlight on it, if it's got a PA system, if you're using the heat technology, right, that's going to draw more. But the good thing is, they're very smart. They'll just come right back to their docking stations. So they're not just going to die and fall out of the air.
So that is the future for policing.
No doubt about it.
We have the chief of New Bedford, Paul Oliveira, here in the studio. Paul, you're the men and women of the police department have had some major victories taking what I think is the number one problem in the city, illegal guns, right? Illegal guns in the hands of totally irresponsible people, not to be confused with NRA members. I always joke, nobody has an NRA card out there, right? You guys are hunting down with guns.
Not quite.
Right?
No, never. As we know, that's what gets all the attention, right? Is our legal gun owners, because they seem our friends at Beacon Hill are
They're
always
easy to find.
seem to be restricting them. But I wish they spent as much time restricting the people that are carrying these illegal guns, right? They're the ones we need to stiffen the penalties. If there's such a surge, which there is across the country, of illegal, gun owners and illegal guns in the street, why aren't we spending more time, or at least putting those people behind bars? Right. The ones we know are not just willing to carry and shoot.
Yes.
They need to be, so much of policing is evidence-based, right? That's how we act. I just don't know why, others in our society don't act that way. So if we know, because face it, there's a small percentage of shooters in New Bedford, and I think throughout the country. Right?
I agree with you.
There may be you may even have a lot of illegal gun owners who are willing to keep a gun under their bed or in their safe with their drugs,
right? But
they don't have what it takes to shoot that gun, right? But when you have somebody, who's out there knowingly shooting a firearm, and then, being arrested finally, being brought to court, and the court still doesn't prioritize that, that's a concern in our society. And that's the concern where, or if they don't even we don't have the laws in place here, to be sure that person is. And I'm not saying put in jail for life. We all know that. But at least be put in jail for that reasonable amount of time where whatever scenario he or she is in cools off, right? And that's concerning because that's not happening here in New Bedford.
It is. You and the mayor have gone to the media, this station in particular, to complain about these judges. But do you think they're getting it? Well, let me put it this way. Just like there's very few people that shoot, right, as we just discussed, I think there are very few, or am I wrong, that there aren't very few judges that just let violent criminals go. Are there just a few judges that are doing that, and how are they doing? Or is everybody like that in the criminal justice system, in your experience locally?
Yeah, no, I can't say it's everybody, but unfortunately, it appears to be the majority to me, or at least what we have in New Bedford. Yeah, we just... part of it is we don't have local judges here. We have a lot of judges that just, to me, aren't familiar enough with our community. And they go home to their suburban communities far from New Bedford and drive off, and it's like, well, it's our problem. And I think that's part of the problem. We need more local judges appointed. It's easy to say. I know it's probably more difficult to do. But unfortunately, there is a trend in New Bedford where we just see this, revolving door in the court, and it's been going on for some time. We've tried bringing light to it in the hopes that it'll stop, but we just made an arrest a couple of weeks ago of a person that, as far as I'm concerned, should have never been on the street in the first place, and yet we put all those resources into re-apprehending him. I'm glad now, with the help of the district attorney again, that he's being held. Yes. On a dangerousness hearing, so that's a success. But this was preventable had he been put away when he should have been put away, when he was rearrested while out on bail for a gun, with a gun and drugs and a car chase, right? The whole 9 yards. So it's disturbing.
We have Chief Paul Oliveira here in the studio. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll go to the phones here. Again, Paul Oliveira is my guest here in the studio, the Chief of New Bedford. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Great. He's going to spend the hour with us here taking your phone calls at 508-996-0500. Just some business to get out of the way. We've had a lot of calls into the program here. I got a lot of gun owners in my audience, and they're concerned with the time it takes to get cleared for a handgun permit or any kind of gun license in the city of New Bedford. Chief Oliveira, how are you dealing with that?
Yes, so thanks for asking. I would like to address this issue. I know it's been a concern, some of the calls I've been fielding recently. So yes, are we backed up? 100%. We are. But I, not to make excuses, but if I can explain a little bit.
Please,
we just came off our firearms qualification. So I have two officers assigned to the firearms division who do a great job. But unfortunately, their only job isn't licensing and permitting. They have to. They're responsible for the qualification of all my officers. Okay. So each and every member of the police department needs to qualify. It used to be once a year. Now it's twice a year. So that obviously pulls them out of the office for those qualifications. So for the last few months, September, October, into early November, we've been qualifying. So we have now completed that qualification. So those officers will now returning to the office and now prioritizing gun licensing. A little different this year was Beacon Hill made sure to enact some either further gun restrictions on our legal gun owners, and every time they do that, which they must know, but of course it's a huge burden on police departments because what that does is a surge of people that come in and request licensing. Right. It's almost the more they restrict it, the more they're really pushing people to get their license. Sure. Someday I think they'll figure that out. But anyways. But really, what is the burden? It becomes on us, of course, right? So, but we do need to do a better job, and I can tell you what we're in the process of doing now. So we're bringing in two other people to assist with this process, and they'll be starting within a couple weeks. So I think once these two people begin processing licenses, they're going to have law enforcement experience. Okay. Because there is a lot to it. This isn't just a matter of pushing paper. Right. There's background. It's one thing to have the interview when the person comes. That's what they're familiar with. It's a pretty simple process, right? Come in, fingerprinted, ask the questions, answer some questioning. But once that person leaves, there is a background check that's required. Yes. And obviously that requires access to some sensitive information. So these two individuals will be capable of accessing that information, processing these applications. So all I can tell you is if you're on the list, you're going to be getting called. Okay. If you're on the list, December, January, you're good. And for those we do open our application process out longer than most. So I know it seems like the wait list is very long because as long as it's out there, it's filling up. So we will start. I would say give me till mid-January. You'll start seeing about 4 weeks of these two individuals working, all these extra hours processing. You'll see a significant drop in the wait period. So it will be prioritized. It is being prioritized. And if, you don't hear something, like I said, if you can give me 6 weeks to 8 weeks, and when I come back here, I'll be happy to report where we stand. And if, people still having issues, of course, they can call.
I appreciate your responsiveness on that, Chief. I really do. We've got a bunch of people on hold here. So, good morning. Thank you for holding. You're live with the Chief of the New Bedford Police Department, Paul Oliveira.
Well, good morning, gentlemen. And if that was the Chief's playlist, you need to play something by the Police.
The Police? I thought that would be too. Every breath you take.
Now, Chief, I know that we need a new police station in the worst way. And thinking about a public service center. In as much as the geographic center of New Bedford is Central Avenue, and without a lot of free space and land where we'd be able to build a center. There always has been some discussion amongst people and citizenry of New Bedford that an ideal location would be somewhere in the corner around Brooklawn Park where you could put in a police station as well as a fire station. I know it would take up some open space, but we could gladly give some open space back when these schools get merged and obviously when these other places close down. So my question is, in a roundabout way, in a long way, is if and when we build a new station, have you subjugated a location, and do you have a a budget number that it may cost for the city to do that, giving you the quality facility that you need to keep the city safe. Thanks, and thanks for all you do, Chief. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the call, my friend. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, caller. Also, sure. So, first question is location. So, I can shoot from the hip and give a couple locations. Brooklawn Park, I have heard that location come up before. Another location, which, I kind of like, is Cogswell Street, where the Packer building is. Yeah. Easy access on and off the highway, get to north, south, east, and west. Somewhat centrally located. So, but really, it's not going to be up to me, quite honest with you. I mean, there's experts for that. That's going to be able to do those site visits, and be able to say where our best. Maybe they'll come up with the top three, but I think that's going to be more of a citywide decision, or definitely at least more of a city hall decision as far as consensus down there, right? Of whether it's public land, private land, doesn't need to be purchased. What's if there's a demolition cost, right? There's going to be a lot more added to it. As far as the cost of the station, again, really way outside of my my purview. But what I can estimate, I would think a state-of-the-art police station nowadays is going to run, a city our size is going to run about $100 million.
Oh, yeah, I would think so. I don't think that's outrageous at all.
Yeah.
The recruiting for the police department, you just brought some new men and women on. You made a great pitch to become a police officer. And talk about the recruiting, how you guys are doing with that now.
Yeah, so, we're moving forward. Actually moving, speaking with, I was recently at a Mass Major Chief city meeting, and that was last week. And, we seem to be a little ahead of others. In some places, a lot ahead. So we just graduated 7. And we have, it sounds like we're going to have 25 going in, about almost 20 going in January into the academy.
Really?
Yeah. And then potentially, I don't want to say a full 10 in March Academy, but at least probably another 5. So I'm being told anywhere from 25 to 30 will be entering the academy early next year. So that's great news. I mean, that'll be the biggest academy we've had in a long time. So, between the $5,000 signing bonus, I think that's helped. The new contract obviously has helped. We did get rid of residency, like I spoke of last time. So, I think I would hope to think the tide's turning a little bit here with our recruitment, and retention has also been more stable. We actually just have a couple officers in the process of onboarding back on that had left us, so that's good news. So,
really, people who had left and coming back.
Yeah. So, so
they went to other departments and realized
they had gone to other departments. Yeah.
They liked it back in New Bedford.
Yes.
Or it was better for whatever reason.
Yeah, for whatever reason, different reasons, but yes, yep.
I mean, your department has got so many opportunities, people, I would think, to rise up. It's the biggest department in the region. Why would you not want to work there? If you really, unless you don't really want to work.
Well, yeah,
right?
We can't compete with that, I think we talked about a little bit of that last time, right? If you want to go to, I know you're partial to Freetown, but if you want to go to Freetown, God bless you, but you're not, to me, you're not going to go to a police work. It's not. That's correct. But if that's what you want, that's, and we've had people leave for that reason, not just for other departments.
I can imagine.
We recently had someone leave who said it just wasn't for them, and they were going back to the private sector. So I respect that too. So I get it, right?
It's not an easy job.
It's not for everybody.
No, it's not.
100%. It's not for everybody. And I'd rather have someone who's just not a good fit or it just doesn't work. You want them to be happy too at work. So, but fortunately we have enough coming on right now, speaking with those 7 officers that came on last week and talking about a great energized group who just can't wait to come up back into the community that they grew up in and make a difference.
What do you do, Paul? So they come out of training over there at Plymouth, right?
This academy came out of Randolph. We use a number of different academies, yes.
Okay. So then they come to New Bedford. It's day 1. How do you break them in? What do you do? What is there I got to imagine. Explain to me what happens day 1 and then how their career is tracked.
Sure. So they graduate the police academy, and then they report to the Bedford Police Headquarters on the Monday. And then for that next week, Monday through Friday, they're given just a crash course on all the different divisions. So we'll have the commander of every unit come in, someone from professional standards, someone from detectives, narcotics, you name it, right? We'll kind of give them a rundown of all our operations. We'll start training them in some of our record keeping, train them on our own in-house computer system, right? Because that's something they haven't trained on. Teach them a little bit about our communication staff, a little bit about the court system, going to court. So it's all things that have been touched upon in their 6 months of training, but not to the level very specific to New Bedford. So they'll have that crash course for a week, and then they're put onto the street after that for 30 days with training officers.
Okay.
And they used what we utilize as our most experienced officers, or not necessarily, I shouldn't say most experienced, but the officers that are interested in training these officers, and the officers just have a very good work ethic and
I was going to say,
really,
you have to hook them up with the officer with the right attitude, right?
no doubt about it.
Because
No.
that first guy, if they get a Debbie Downer, could kill his desire to be a police officer.
No doubt about it. And we have enough of those, so
Right.
we don't want to, we try not to intermingle. So fortunately, we leave that up to the command staff,
Okay.
and we just tell the command staff, listen, we're going to ship you, you may be getting 2 bodies on your day shift. And, we trust, obviously, the command staff to marry them up with 2, motivated officers. And so we've had very good luck with that. And obviously, the far majority of our officers are well experienced, well motivated to do that type of training, and I appreciate the work that goes into training those officers. So for those next 30 days, that's what they do. We'll double them up in that car, and they'll shadow, and they'll be given some police reports during that time, and they'll be given reviews to be sure they're up to par. And at the end of the 30 days, if we find they may need another 30, we'll give them another 30. But other than that, after 30, if they're good to go, they'll start working on their own.
We have the chief of the New Bedford Police Department, Paul Oliveira, here in studio. So without the residency requirement, where are you? In other words, this new class, do you have people who've never really spent any time in the city of New Bedford?
No.
In other words, how do they learn the streets?
No, the good news is, even though we don't have residency, it's not a requirement. We still hire residents first. So we're civil service community, which means there's a civil service test throughout the state. But when you take that, you're checking the box of where you currently live.
Okay.
So we give preference to New Bedford residents. The only good thing is when we exhaust that New Bedford list, when we go out and hire someone from a neighboring community.
Right.
Now, back in the day, they were forced to move to New Bedford. And that was usually a game changer for them.
course.
They'd be like, I want to be a cop, not that bad. Right. And now housing,
get
it wasn't that easy. It's not convenient. Pack up their whole family, move to New Bedford. No, thank you. They're already established wherever they were. So now at least they can still come into the community. So right now we're still working with New Bedford residents.
So they know when you say, hey, you got to head over to County Street, they know what County Street is.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, to get back to your point, though, have we hired people from outside the community, had to learn it? Yes. I didn't have that challenge. So, I mean, it's a little more challenging. But, nowadays with GPS, it's not as, nothing's as difficult to navigate. Back in the day when I came on, growing up in New Bedford my whole life, there were still many streets. I was a North End kid.
Right.
I didn't spend a lot of time down the South End.
Right.
So I go down there, I'd still need my little
Division
book.
Street, where's that?
Yeah, exactly. So I
You quickly found out, though.
Oh, yeah. Some of the streets you find out, you spend more time on them than what you want. But, no, but we used to have a little book, a little street guide, to kind of get us around. And then you have to give us crosses on the radio, and it was a little more challenging. But things are a little easier now, obviously.
But you're always recruiting.
Always recruiting.
How is the attrition rate?
So the attrition rate is, like I said, it's been okay. We haven't, come January is always a common time for our officers to leave. There's not incentives to leave in January, but it kind of makes sense if you're going to leave and you're almost ready and you're maxed out. A lot of people. So we'll see a few officers leave in January. So, there's always people coming and going. It's
Yes.
just the profession we work in. And I think if you talk to teachers and nurses and every other profession,
I was
right?
a sales manager. It's always, they're coming and going.
Yeah. So you just got to keep plugging along,
Right.
So. And that's why the process never stops right now of the recruitment and the hiring piece. It's important to, full speed ahead.
We have a look. Every community is facing a narcotics problem. That was your specialty, I guess, right? You spent a long time in narcotics.
I did.
How are we doing on the front of narcotics?
It's a battle. It's a battle, right? And for me to come here today and tell you that we're winning the war. I don't know if that's, I really wouldn't be an accurate statement, but it's a constant. I'm proud of the men and women in our drug unit.
Oh yeah,
it's one of the most active drug units in the state. Always has been. It's a tough unit to work in. They're under more scrutiny now than ever before. With everything going on. So, no, they go out there every day and they work on community tips. A lot of what we work on is information that. was originally supplied by, the neighbor, the concerned neighbor or resident or friend or sometimes scorned friend. That's,
Sure, yeah. Right.
That's just as helpful. Reliable, good information is reliable, good information. We still have to vet any information we get anyways. But no, we keep at it. We're not going to, we won't get discouraged. We're going to keep going at it. So like I said, we've made significant progress, I'd like to think, but it never stops.
As part of an ongoing conversation, because a lot of this is New Bedford. Why New Bedford, right? I always heard, well, it's because there's a port and you can import a lot of stuff. But how are you told me last week the drugs primarily come up from New York. Is it that the people of New Bedford, in your experience, do more drugs, or is it that it's an easier place or sometimes an easier place to market narcotics for the suburbs? In your experience?
Yeah, I think so. It's just a bigger city. I mean, talking to and I always say sometimes our drug unit being so successful has brought more light to how much drugs there are in New Bedford.
Sure.
So, we were one of the most proactive drug units, always have been, in the state. But I think that's really just a testament to the men and women, to the commitment of the work being done. If we made far less arrests in our drug unit, we could go on the premise that, maybe drugs aren't that much of a problem. But
I wonder if that happens. Not in your department, but I agree with you, yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, you can, there's some that'll tell you crime's down, but you look at some communities where they've decriminalized everything, and they wonder why, it's in the West Coast, right? Crime's down, but, you got people walking out of stores with thousands of dollars of merchandise, and there's nothing nobody can do, and there's a sense of hopelessness to some of the community. And that's really, I don't want to mix property crime with drug dealing, but drug dealing is, I think we've always put an emphasis on it here in New Bedford, and I know that throughout my career, it's always been an emphasis, but do I think our problem is much worse? The Northeast has always been a hotbed. It started with heroin. For some reason, the Northeast has just always been a big user of heroin, and now it's turned to fentanyl. So, and now really fentanyl has come across the country, and it's really affected every single community, the suburbs, urban environments. It doesn't matter. So, but yeah, I don't tend to think New Bedford's much worse than any of the community our size.
No, but I wonder how much of it is the suburbs going in for cocaine and heroin, pills, stuff like that, into your city than it is the people who day in and day out wake up and go to bed in New Bedford.
Sure. Right. Yeah, there's some of that too. No, there's no doubt. When I worked in the drug unit, we definitely had, some supply chain to the Cape, sometimes to the islands. You'd see people coming over on the ferry. We made a number of arrests. After gathering intel of someone coming over on the ferry to purchase drugs to bring back to the vineyard or from the Cape or some of the suburbs that surround the communities. No, it's a big community. So obviously the percentage-wise, we will have, more drugs in our community and more drug dealers.
How many would you say, based on your expert opinion, major impact drug distributors are there in the greater New Bedford area? Is it 20? Is it 5? Is it 100?
I'm a little out of the game. There's always been a handful of our major players that are kind of always under the radar. So I would say, that there's always around 6 to 10 that you're trying to always, key in on and trying to work with our federal partners to try to say, we need resources. We need help on these 5 to 10, right? And then below that is obviously a number. And then obviously you always try to work on the bigger fish. Get in the supply chain, which is usually comes out of Providence.
Right.
But on average, you're focusing on the big guys, about 5 to
and 10. They are smart and they're insulated.
Yeah, sure. Well, they have less customers, right? You're not going to see, they're not running a point house, so there's not going to be traffic coming in and out all the time.
Explain a point house. That's a real insider piece of language. I never heard that before. Say it.
Yeah, so just a point house is just a term used where, they're selling to the average buyer, right, who's looking for that $20 bag. And those are usually the ones we get the calls on because there's a lot of drug activity. So that, that person is selling in a neighborhood, and there's constant activity in and out of the house.
Okay.
And that's just known as a point house. They're the point person of just selling the stuff. So obviously the dealer that isn't bringing that much attention to himself, right? However many steps up. That dealer has less customers, but he's just dealing a much larger quantity.
Right. And he sets up the point house.
He sets up the point house. So he may even have two people below him, right? There may be somebody below him and below him that eventually just gets it down with, that person's buying a smaller amount. The point house is always challenging for us because they're usually the most disruptive to the neighborhood.
Sure.
And they're the highest risk for us to do a search warrant because they're not sitting on, 50 grams, right? They're sitting on a small amount. So you got to be a lot.
What do you consider a small amount of narcotics? Say heroin. What's a small amount of heroin?
Like personal use would be, a gram or two.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
But these point houses have way more than that in them because they're. Or
yeah,
no?
Not necessarily, right? They could just be getting, 5-10 grams at a time.
Okay.
And then as they sell that, they just keep re-upping because they don't have a lot of money.
So that's the re-up that I hear about on the wire.
Yes.
Because all I know about this, Chief, really is from watching. But some of your detectives have told me that's a very accurate show.
Yeah, no, they're right. That stuff's not far-fetched, some of that stuff. The wire, some of these others. No. So, yeah, they keep re-upping, right? Especially if they're using some of their profits. So they're, basically as soon as they can get enough money to go buy whatever they're buying, half ounce at a time.
Okay.
They'll buy the half ounce. They may break it up into, gram bags or smaller bags, and then they distribute it. They sell it. They get enough. They just keep re-upping, so.
508-996-0500. We're going to take this call. 508-996-0500. Thank you for holding. You're on the air.
Hello, Chris, and obviously, Chief, it's nice to speak to you. You know what my issue is going to be. It's get back to the gun licensing for a moment.
Yeah, he addressed it, I think.
Yeah, well, my license comes up for renewal the 29th of this month, which is next Friday. I put in for renewal back in August, and I didn't receive my receipt of renewal, which makes me legal in transport and use of firearms, but I cannot purchase a firearm on a receipt of renewal. Why is it that the city of New Bedford is not sending out the receipts anymore for renewal?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the receipt of renewal. I know as the renewals come in, that's obviously an easier process for us to process, and we do it not as they come in, but the Firearms Division will prioritize them by date of expiration. So I'd be more than happy to follow up if you'd like to follow up with me on that, and I can find out the status of your renewal. But I can assure you, if you're good till December 29th, we'll have that processed for you prior to that date. I don't know of any particular case that I'm aware of where we haven't been able to renew a license in a timely manner.
And what was my status after the 29th without that receipt?
That's a good question. I know there was a grace period at one point in time. I don't know if that's been waived with that new legislation. This new legislation that just passed, I'll be honest with you, has myself and a lot of other chiefs confused with the interpretation of it. They've already kicked back a couple of the deadlines because they were so out of reality of the police or anybody else enforcing. Like the gun safety classes and things such as that. I think some of that stuff's been kicked back to 2026. So I can get you the
and I call your office after this afternoon sometime, for instance.
Yes, sir. Yep. Call my office. It's 991-6300 extension 9. The chief's office asked for me, and I'll be sure to tell you exactly where you are in the queue on that renewal. And be sure we'll
okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll let you get to other calls.
Hey,
thank you.
Thanks for the call, Bye-bye. My friend. It's a good time to tell you to head over to Shooting Supply right now. They have over 200 Smith & Wesson revolvers in stock. Each one of those revolvers comes with a $150 rebate from Smith & Wesson, making them as low as $399 after the rebate. As my dad would say, let's get two at that price. So save with a $100 rebate also on Colt revolvers. Stock up on ammunition with the lowest prices of the year, plus Shooting Supply's Black Friday sale is so big, there's no way it could all be done in just one day. There will be new specials all week long. Sign up for their preferred email list so you'll be one of the first to find out how you can save on every one of their daily specials. Get more information, go to shootingsupply.com. Shooting Supply is located on Route 6 in the town of Westport. Stick around. We'll be right back. Take a quick break. Welcome back to the program. I'm Chris McCarthy. Of course, we have the Chief of the New Bedford Police Department, Paul Oliveira, here in studio, taking your questions. Let's go right back to the phones. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Good morning, Chief Oliveira. How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you.
All right, good to have you in. I'd like to have you come in once a month if you could, and I appreciate it. You know, in our city, we don't get told how many of these crimes are committed by illegal aliens or, these drug cartels in our city. Can you answer my question? And I'm noticing a lot of out-of-state plates, New York, New Jersey. I'm wondering if there's drug running going on in our city. So tell us,
Yes.
The illegal problem of these crimes that we're hearing about living in New Bedford, but they don't belong here to begin with. I'll hang up. I'll let you answer.
That's a great question. Thank you. Chief.
Sure, thank you. As far as the crime, I would say it for the most part it's pretty consistent here in the city. It kind of runs the gamut of who we're arresting. Obviously, as you know, New Bedford's a very diverse community. There's a makeup of everyone here. But to say that it's really whether the drug operation or the violent crime is really being run by one culture, I really can't say that. It's just not accurate. I mean, we have a very large Central American population, but I got to tell you, from what I see here, from our experiences in the city, they commit very, they're responsible for a very small amount of time, a very small amount of the crime here in our city. So it wouldn't be fair to me to try to portray any one group in our city that's kind of responsible for it. I just don't have the data to prove that.
When someone comes in, do your detectives run them through a computer to check their immigration status? Is that not done?
No, that's not done. I don't think there is a computer that really even does that.
Really?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, not that we have access to. That's correct. We just have our in-house computer. So when we arrest somebody, we just process them with their name, date of birth, send them over to Ash Street, and they get fingerprinted and photographed.
But if they had a immigration detainer, that wouldn't show up anywhere?
No, not unless an immigration detainer won't show up unless the feds entered that into the NCIC computer, which is the National Crime Database.
What do you bet that's going to start happening?
It's going to, I don't really know what the future holds with, I've heard all the stories and, I don't really, it's going to take a while, I think, for this to play itself out. So, as far as I'm concerned, we're just going to keep doing our thing. Obviously, if we arrested somebody and they were some violent criminal, we would do what we normally do, right? We send them to court, process them with all the paperwork, and then it's up to the court to, to hold them or set a detainer on them.
So these transnational gangs, you're not seeing those here?
No, there's been no evidence of that, that I've seen here in the city. No.
Just our own homegrown.
Yeah, obviously, we do have our own issues.
Well,
we know that,
we
right? I mean, there's no secret. We have our own kids shooting at each other, right? And it's been going on for years and years and years. And I just, sometimes I say I wish there was more outrage in our community or more being done to address some of those issues at our local community level. Yes. Because let's not ignore it. Like, we have some of our own kids, and not just. These are the kids now, but as parents, their parents were shooting at each other 30 years ago, and their grandparents were shooting at each other. Some, not all, right? And to me, that's troubling to me.
I've had people say when we have shootings and they're in the news, and they want to blame illegal aliens. I go, those guys woke up and went to bed. They were born in the same hospital you and I were born in, likely St. Luke's.
Correct.
Right.
And we all know there's things going on out there in our world, right, that are scary right now. But, for me to speak on those worldwide issues would be, I'm not in tune enough about it. I just see what I see on the news. But I can only speak to New Bedford. But I can't tell you that we're having those issues that I'm reading about in some other communities.
Chief, you've got some really interesting new taking technology, like we talked about a little bit earlier, to help you train your officers. Talk about that.
Yeah, so part of we purchased as you know, we just outfitted with body cameras over the last couple months. So all of our officers have body cameras, and the same company that makes body cameras, Axon, makes this virtual reality training, and it's state of the art. Talking about 21st century training, it's a virtual reality headset for those people not familiar with it. So the days of having these big rooms set up with 10 movie theater screens, right? And just the technology not being that realistic. This stuff is just a headset, a laptop, a taser, and a firearm, all automated. It's got AI technology built into it, where our officers can have a communication with the person in the scenario, and the person talks back. Listen, I'm getting old.
Right.
This is like, it's crazy stuff. I mean, it's
not as old as Chris Carter, though. What did you get Chris Carter for his birthday? It was yesterday. If you missed it,
I missed his birthday. I'll reach out to him today. I'll be sure.
Slice of cake, maybe.
But no, the virtual reality, I think, is it's going to be great technology for our officers to be able to run through these scenarios and practice their skills.
Safer for them and safe for the public.
No doubt about it. That's
right.
what it's all about. Give them better tools. So
we'll take a quick break. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll be right back. Oliveira here in studios. We really appreciate his time. So, Chief, you guys have a sort of Christmas event coming up. Can you explain that?
Sure, yeah. We actually do a few things. We try to support as much as we can. So we have a number of people that do reach out to us every year, and some families in need. And obviously we try to, bring them by some donations that we graciously receive from the community. And then we also do a very large breakfast with Santa. We do that down at Our Lady of Guadalupe for the last couple of years. And we hundreds of kids there.
That's great.
Yeah, it's an amazing event.
How can people help out?
Yeah, so actually the biggest thing we always need is toys.
Okay.
Right? So we'll start accepting toys any time now at any of our police stations, and we'll put some message boards up to remind people for toy donations. If people would rather donate gift cards, that's fine too. We'll take anything.
Okay.
But the toys are the biggest thing.
Do they wrap them or not wrap them?
No, unwrapped is unwrapped. Yeah,
okay.
we give away everything unwrapped. It's easy for us to differentiate when the kids show up. So, and then we also we're going to have a toy drive coming up on Saturday, December 14th at Walmart. And that'll be like a stuff the cruiser event.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so this way, kind of obviously, because we go through a lot of toys. Like I say, you can imagine over 300 kids.
Yeah, there's a need.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a need here in our community. And that's the nice thing is all the toys are distributed right here in New Bedford. So,
right.
So, yeah, if anybody would like to donate to that cause, they can reach out to me, myself, or Holly Huntoon, our public information officer. So
very easy to work with, Holly Huntoon.
At times, yeah, she's pretty good.
She schedules this appearance for you.
No, Holly's amazing. Yeah, no,
she does a great job.
Department couldn't run without her, so we appreciate everything she does.
The Christmas season is upon us. Porch pirates. People stealing packages. How big of that is a problem?
Yeah, it's a problem. It's always been a problem. These guys, there'll be more packages left on the porches this time of year. We try to tell people, where they have where they have doorbell cameras or whatever else they have. But if they can prevent that package from staying out on their porch, obviously do whatever they can with their due diligence. Right. It's not so much. I know some of the times it's just a write-off. Right? But, it's more the inconvenience, right? You're expecting a present, and then that thing gets stolen off your porch. Unfortunately, we know there's people in our society that just prey off that stuff,
right.
But, yeah, really, look out for your neighbors. It's true. Somebody gets dropped off.
How great are those Ring cameras for your profession?
It's amazing. Right? It's amazing. It was a number of years ago. I actually met the owner of that company who founded that company, and I had told him that it was a game changer in our profession. Right. I mean, that has solved countless homicides here in Massachusetts. Never mind. I remember Taunton was the one I saw most recently.
Oh, yeah, the guy just put two guys away.
Convicted. Yeah, and that was all because of that Ring doorbell. Had there not be a Ring doorbell,
stabbing, right?
That potentially would still be unsolved today. So, cameras in general are amazing, but that's we talk about some of this technology as we discussed earlier. Yeah. It's really changed a lot of things in our profession.
So, Chief, Thanksgiving is coming up. People are. Like I said, getting those packages in the mail, and they're getting them intercepted. But also, people have to think about when they're leaving. What's the best way to make your house look lived in if you're going out of town?
Yeah, don't keep lights, right? Keeping lights on, and if you don't have cameras, go buy the camera set,
there
right? You
go,
can
right?
buy cameras.
We just put some up in Fairhaven.
Yeah,
here at my house in Fairhaven.
You don't need to wire them in anymore either, right? Most of the stuff's all Bluetooth and just hooked up on Wi-Fi. So it's simple, right? There's really no excuse now. Why most houses aren't equipped with cameras, especially if you're going to be leaving. If you're home all the time, your lights are on and off. It's not as much a concern.
Right.
But these guys do get somewhat in tune to this if they see the house vacant for periods of time.
Chief, I want to thank you for coming in. I really appreciate you making the time available for us. We'll look forward to maybe next month as well. And have a great Thanksgiving and a great Christmas if I don't see you.
All right, thank you. Same to you as well, Chris. Appreciate it.